Hi everyone, it's Thursday night, 9 o'clock. It's time for the Handicap rugby chat that matters. I can tell you it's a public holiday here in South Africa. It wasn't very easy to get the local boys on board. I've only got one of them coming on a little bit later, and I'm not convinced he hasn't been at the booze all day, but I can tell you the likes of the conductor and Hendrik Swart, Neil, thoughts on sports, and let's just say the boys are at the pints a little bit, but good news is we've got some European rugby as well as local rugby to look forward to this week. I will also touch on the New Zealand rugby, but not going to go into too much detail there. But we've got Dave joining us from Ireland. Dave, good to have you back on the show, and a cracking weekend of rugby ahead.
Oh, absolutely, Brent. Thanks for having us back. It was brilliant a few weeks ago, and great to meet some of the guys in the chat, in the group, and especially the conductor. The last time he's been very helpful on some of the punting. So thank you.
Excellent. Well, I see a lot of the boys have joined us in the live chat already, so welcome to all of you guys. Brady's there. Oraclepedia's standing by. The Crow Tips is very active on Twitter, has been on a good run, and Peter Paul and Brad Breath as well. So, guys, good to have you there on the live chat. We're going to get straight into the action in just a few moments. Just to let you know that Oracle Rugby, or Oraclepedia as he calls himself now, will be joining me to talk about the South Africa games, but Dave is going to take us through some of the big European games this weekend, and we do have 4 semi-finals to look forward to. And Dave, let's start off with the Champions Cup, and we've got Racing up against Saracens. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Racing are at home for this game, and it's -3.5 against Saracens, who stunned Leinster. They absolutely outplayed Leinster last weekend, didn't they?
It took me a couple of days to get over that one, Brent. Probably still not over, especially when I saw the Michael Rhodes sighting incident, which happened in the first or second minute when he allegedly struck Robbie Henshaw in the head. It could have been a completely different outcome. But over here, there's been a lot of talk about how the match was reffed at the scrum. Leinster got completely pulverised in the scrum. They gave away 7 penalties at scrum time, and Elliot Daly kicked a few monster kicks. At 22-3 at half-time, the game was essentially dead. But in fairness, they rallied, and they had a chance in the second half. I didn't see it coming from maybe I had my blue-tinted glasses on. But I just felt with the personnel that Saracens had lost, the season Leinster had, the unbeaten run, and the strength and depth that Leinster have, that I couldn't see them losing. But in fairness to Saracens, they really rolled up their sleeves. And they say matches are won up front by the forwards. And that was the case in Dublin last weekend.
Yeah, it certainly was. It was a very impressive Saracens performance. And the only thing consolation for me was I was watching them one of the most exciting Tour de France individual time trials I've ever watched. And for that particular reason, I didn't get involved in the game on a betting point of view, because I can tell you what, I was firmly in the Leinster camp myself. So it would have been big problems. I'm just having a bit of a laugh in the live chat. We've got Brady and Oracle actually talking to each other in French in the live chat. I'm not going to bring up any of those comments because I have absolutely no idea what they are.
Is there anything Brady can't do?
No. The guy, from what I understand, he can't hold down a job because he spends too much time studying rugby. But that's about the only thing. But no, he's a man of many talents, and look forward to seeing what his views are on these games. And let's get into this one then. Racing -3.5 against Saracens. What do you think here, Dave?
My early gut feeling was a home win. I think Saracens, if you look at it, were their front row last week, Vinopola, Koch and George. I think Vinopola played about 70 minutes and the 2 other boys essentially played the match. They don't have much of a bench. So if the game goes tight and Racing can keep it tight, they have a much stronger bench. So I'm veering towards the minus.
Right, the minus on Racing there.
Like they played each other in the group stages in the U Arena, and it was 30 points to 10. Now, granted, Saracens at that stage were putting out weaker sides, and they played their proper side when they played the match in Allianz Park, and it was a much closer affair. If you look at Finn Russell, to me, is the form number 10 in Europe at the moment, and he's got like Zebo, Imhoff, Nakatawa outside him. He can really unlock defences, and I'm veering towards a home win. Like, since the last 3 games, Racing have scored, I think it's 104 points. Like, they're a scoring machine. I think Saracens had their final last week, and I'm veering with the home team here.
Well, Brett is with you on that one as well. But Dave, let's just talk about points lines. I don't know if there's any points lines out yet, but this game. But you mentioned Racing scoring a lot. What do you think? What is your feeling? Are we going to get points in this game?
Yeah, I think it's going to be. The both teams are used to the artificial pitches. I think it'd be a fast game, and there's going to be points scored. So no points line out yet, but I'd be veering towards the overs.
Right, veering towards the overs. Brady is rubber stamping your Racing call there as well. He thinks the pace of the game will perhaps.
Well, then I better double down then.
Double down. That's it. Yeah, you got. There's certain guys you want to see rubber stamp your bet. That's before. Just Shane asking the question, and he thought, who's your outright winner now in the comp? And while you're doing that, I'll quickly go look at the prices.
Yeah, obviously my outright winner are out now. I really think it's going to be hard to know. The final's going to be in France. So if Racing were to make it against Exeter, I'd probably be veering towards the Racing to win it. That's just my gut, but it could be any one of them. Like you look at Toulouse there, the outsiders, and like the players they have at their disposal. Like it's a real coin toss now.
Right, looking at the betting, the Exeter 2-1, Racing 5-2, Saracens 3-1, and Toulouse that is 7-2 on that one. So yeah, it's interesting. It certainly is priced as though it's wide open, and that certainly is the case. Let's move on to the next game then, Dave, and it's the Exeter Chiefs here against Toulouse, and here we got -3.5 the Chiefs.
Yeah, Brent, it's very interesting. Like last week, we were all talking about the Northampton Exeter match, and it was going to be a cricket score and a bloodbath, and Northampton did nothing since the restart of rugby, and then out of nowhere they put up a grunty performance, and I think at half time there was only a couple of points in it. I'd say Exeter looked at the video on Monday, and Rob Baxter has corrected a lot of what went on last week. Again, if you look at the history of the Heineken Cup, it's the home team that wins the semi-finals. And I know the early board they were offering plus 5.5 or plus 4.5 on Toulouse. There was value there. I'm now veering back towards the home side, and you look at like Toulouse have an incredible team. If anyone's going to unlock the Exeter defence down in Sandy Park, I'd say it is going to be Toulouse. Second thing you might look at is Toulouse went to Dublin last year and they got beat in the semi-finals by Leicester. Will they have learned from that defeat? They've got like Jerome Kano, Dupont, your own, what's his name, Shelvin Kobe, the winger, Ramos. They've got some really good players. But again, my gut feeling is to go towards the home team. I've been very impressed.
Another market of interest here would probably be the 1 to 12 winning margin. I see Exeter under 12.5 points. So you're backing the home team to win here, but you're not expecting them to run away with the game.
No.
At 15 to 10. And another bet.
That's a really interesting market because you're expecting a tight game, and you're getting a much better bang for your buck on the 1 to 12.
Right, and Brady, though, coming in saying he likes it to lose cap here. They've got a 6 front row guys that will give a hard time to Exeter. Substitutes, of course, are crucial. So this is a matter of interest. If you do think Toulouse will win the game, Toulouse under 12.5 points is 2-1. And another bet I'll make mention of here, I don't know if the bookies have priced it up yet, but a couple of our local bookies do it. I know Sunbet do, is you can back either team to win by 7 points or less. So you're effectively getting that 15 points. You've got the draw running for you. And that's quite a nice bet in a game like this because it is one you can really see potentially going down to the wire, Dave.
I haven't seen that market being offered over here, but yeah, it is going to be the game of the weekend in terms of how hard fought it's going to be. I would be veering towards the unders. If you look at like Exeter, it was at 2010, they got prep and like they've gone from the second division all the way up to the semi-final of Europe, and it would be to the club down in Devon if they managed to do the job on Saturday.
Right, excellent. So we've got a couple of confident calls coming in there in the Champions Cup, and I must admit I'm looking forward to watching both of those games. Moving on to the Challenge Cup, I think we've got a game on Friday night. Is it the Bristol Bears up against Bordeaux? And this game, the handicap I see at Sunbet is 7.5 points, Bristol Bears favourite.
Yeah, as I was saying earlier on, it's Semi Radradra versus Bordeaux. Like he's playing his old club, and since he's arrived in Bristol, he's been clearly the best player. I can see why they've spent the big money on him. Like just looking at that game last week, they went down 10-0 to the Dragons, who I wouldn't really rate, and then the semi show started. Like the amount of players he managed to attract, 2 or 3 defenders, and still managed to get an offload in. He makes so much space for other players on his team, and they use him really effectively as well as a decoy runner. The other player who really has shone since the restart for Bristol has been Ben Earl. Like himself and Maitland's moved from Saracens on a year loan, and he scored 2 tries last week, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him score another one tomorrow. Like Pat Lam, obviously, as you know, was with Connacht for all those years, and he developed a serious culture. And I know from chatting to Ian Madigan, how impressed he was with what Pat has brought to the club, and they're gung-ho looking to win this competition this year, and it will be my bet of the weekend, will be the minus on Bristol.
Minus on Bristol, the bet of the weekend. Andrew, of course, is one half of Son of the Punt coming in. Bordeaux Beagles defend super solid against Edinburgh, so he's looking at unders on this game. You got any thoughts on points on this game?
Well, you look at it, since the restart, Bristol have scored, I think it's over 100 points at home. They're undefeated in the Challenge Cup at home. Their only defeat in the league in the restart was a very narrow defeat against a reserve Exeter team, but we know like what sort of squad they have. I'd agree with Andy on the being a tight game, being a semi-final, no bonus points to play for. But I just see they've got too much firepower, especially if you look at French teams when they're travelling, the head can drop. If Bristol can start well, the French, they could well chuck in the towel. But I'm expecting a really good Bristol performance tomorrow. The weather forecast is good, and I think that their pack will be able to stand up to the French. And I'm looking forward to this one. This is one of the most important games of the season for them. They're touch and go whether they're going to get into the playoffs in the English Prem at the moment. They've got to win the remaining 2 games. And Pat Lam, he will be sighting. He's set out his stalls to win this competition.
Well, we're going to get into the last European match now, but just to mention, in the box below, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, is a link to subscribe to our newsletter, which goes out on Friday morning. We're on a nice run at the moment. Not sure yet what our bet is going to be tomorrow, but sign up to that. And you can also check what the guys are saying on the Good for the Game forum. The forum is absolutely flying this weekend. Plenty of great tips coming in there, and also information, guys sharing information as and when it comes up. We're going to our last European game, and if Oraclepedia is watching, which he was at the start, that's his signal to start logging on and come and joining us for the South African game. But let's go to this one, David. Toulon minus 9.5 against Leicester.
I got burnt on this one last weekend, Brent. We have a team bet here, and we some of the markets over here, you don't get the half points, so we went -5 on Toulon instead of the alternative handicap. And as you know yourself, it finished with a Toulon victory by 5 points. I watched Carbonal, the reserve 10, come on for Toulon, and he missed a kick pretty much in front of the post to do us. So that wasn't very good viewing. I was very, very unimpressed with Toulon last week. Expected so much more. They gave away something like 10 penalties, got turned over 14 times. They're coming up against a decent Leicester team with a 9-10 of Youngs and Ford. If they give away those penalties again, I think they're going to get punished. They also have your man, the Fijian flyer, Nandola. Now, he looks like he's really been enjoying himself during lockdown. So I'm hoping that your South African fitness coach, Aled, can sort him out and get him firing on Saturday. But if I'm going on this, I think chatting to the guys, we were all pretty confident of the plus on this one. Toulon are missing so many frontline players. they're not looking particularly hot right now.
Right, going for the plus there. The Crow Tip saying, how do these teams make it into a European semi? So, yeah, interesting, suggesting they could be could be a bit fortunate just to be there. Cue the Elvis music, says Shane, because we're going to be welcoming Oracle in any minute now, and I look forward to seeing what he says on that one. Just have a look at Brady's comment here. Serene will be back at scrum half, Carbonell at 10, and a chance to see Etzebeth back as well. So we've got some great European rugby to look forward to there.
I
Dave?
think that will make a big difference for Toulon, like what Brady just said. When Carbonell came on at halftime, or just after, he made a big difference and he got them firing. They got Parise at 8. He got a try from TMO disallowed. That it looked like it was a good attacking move. But Serran back, he's ex-Bordeaux. Get him back at 9, and it could make a big difference. I wasn't impressed with him at 10. But I'm hopeful that Steve Borthwick will have them fired up. Like Leicester are dead in the Premiership. They've done nothing all year. So I'm hoping that they'll manage to do the business on Saturday night. Is that a bouncer?
Excellent. Well, before we say before we say goodbye to you, Dave, we must introduce you to Oracle. I know you have sort of met him on WhatsApp. Now, Oracle.
Good to see you again.
It's 30-something ridiculous degrees, so the aircon was on. I turned it off because it made a noise. But honestly, it's been a baggies and vest day today. It's ridiculous.
You look like you're working on the local door at my nightclub.
no, nobody would be scared of me. Don't worry.
Hey, Dave, you don't want to run into that man in a dark alley.
Brent, just one thing. I thought you were getting a haircut this week.
No,
yes, Brent, looks like you haven't cut your hair since the start of lockdown.
I haven't, and I've got to break 120 kilograms before I cut it. And I must tell you that on Tuesday, I got to 120.3 kilograms. Oh. So I was within 300 grams of having my hair cut. My wife was starting to celebrate. Unfortunately, my daughter did some baking on Tuesday afternoon, and I've now ballooned back up to close to 122. So hopefully next week I'll have a haircut. Got to within 300 grams. Reminded me of a cyclist sort of just chasing back on and just about getting back onto the wheel of the other guy, and he just shoots off into the distance again. That's kind of how I felt. But hopefully next week I'll be sorted.
Very good. Very good.
Only hope. So Dave, just sum up before we say cheers to you. Your best bet then, is it the Bears on the minus?
It's going to be the Bears on the minus, closely followed by Leicester on the plus.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Dave. Been great chatting to you.
As always,
look forward to having you on the show again soon. Have a cracking weekend.
Take care. See you, Oracle. See you, Brent.
Cheers,
Dave. Excellent. Always a pleasure to have Dave on the show. Great to get his inputs there from Ireland. And welcome back, Oracle Rugby. Oracle, it's been a while. You did say you got a bit tired of the Australian competition, and you said, wait for the local rugby and I'll be back. And true to your word, you are back. Obviously, this week you call them festival games. I'm sure you're going to say the same thing as me. Don't get too carried away in these games. Although having said that, there looks like there's lots of money flying onto them. So we'll talk about that now. But what have you been up to, and are you looking forward to the local competition starting?
Yeah, I'm very excited, Brent. The local rugby, this Australian stuff. I did get involved in a couple of games. Never went over a unit. Made a little bit of money in the beginning, and then I lost on the Rebels and the Waratahs in the last couple of games. excuse me, that I got involved in, and just said, listen, I'm not going to. The little bit of money that I'd made at that point, I wasn't going to go into the minus. So basically gave it away, ended with a 0, didn't lose, didn't win. It was probably worth the experience. I didn't feel like getting involved any more than that. I didn't have the time to properly study, and those rule changes that they stuck in for Australia definitely affected the game. That I don't know what they called it, a short dropout or in-goal dropout or whatever it was, made a massive difference because you're taking the ball away from an attacking team. I always made a comment. I made a big comment, actually. I was on Twitter all over the place at the time. A team had, I think it was the Brumbies. I needed them to score. They got over the line at the siren of half-time. And because it was half-time, they blew for half-time. Any other time in the game, the Brumbies in that situation, or the attacking team, would be given the ball and get a 5-meter scrum. This rule completely messed that up. I mean, that game, the game where I really sort of hung up my boots in this Australian tournament was that Rebels game against the Reds when they completely dominated, went over the try line a couple of times only to be given short dropouts or whatever they called that thing. So yes, I don't know. I didn't do any stats on it, but I've got to believe that it had something to do with the points as well. I would imagine the points results would have been a lot lower than what people expected. Tries that would have happened because of a 5-meter scrum and an attacking position after that failed to exist because that dropout and teams didn't score after that dropout. Even though they were given the ball back, 30, 35 meters later. The game was completely changed. The New Zealand rugby I didn't get too involved with. Obviously, I had a bet with you and the conductor on the odd occasion. Again, ended up pretty much flat. Didn't get too involved. So yeah, I've really not had any bets, bar the odd, one or two small ones. I've not touched. I've not touched anything. I see Brady checking on my French there. My French is not great, Brady, but what I have done is I've worked out how to translate properly. So yeah, there you go. I can speak to anybody. I can speak to them quickly, and they'll be impressed.
Excellent. Well, just to mention, Mike asked the question: will we be talking Mitre 10 Cup? So we won't be going into it in great detail, Mike, but I will be running through the betting, and I've got the likes of Thoughts on Sports and Henrik and Son of a Punt and Sean Nicholas. I've got their best bets, so I'll just be having a look at my WhatsApps at the same time and sharing those with you, but we will get through that fairly quickly. But Gavin, we've got local rugby coming up this weekend. It's a doubleheader at Loftus. They're calling it Super Fan Saturday. Not a fan's going to be allowed in the ground, and I understand if you want, you can get your picture up on, I don't know, through Vodacom. That type of thing's not really for me, if I must be totally honest. But the bottom line is we got local rugby back after an extended break of over 6 months. And we've got two cracking games to look forward to, starting with the Bulls up against the Sharks. And there was some plus available on the Bulls. I saw them get backed into favourite. In fact, at WSB this morning, I saw they were 15-20. They've now gone back out to 21-20. And most of the boys that you and I know are all over the Bulls in this game. Where's Oracle's money going, if it's going anywhere at all?
Okay, before I talk about this game, I just want to mention something else that I've been hearing over the last month and a bit, suggesting that South Africa won't be ready for any rugby championship or Tri-Nations or whatever they end up playing in the next couple of months because Australia and New Zealand have been playing for so long. But I think the latter actually, the opposite actually applies here. The Australians and New Zealanders have come to the end of their little season, and now they're not going to be match ready when these games actually take place. So from a South African perspective, I think the fact that we're starting now, yes, it's been annoying that we've had to wait. But I think if we do end up playing against New Zealand and Australia in the next couple of months, I think we'll be far more ready than they will because we'll have had top level rugby. The best of our players that have been in Super Rugby, or should I say, are in Super Rugby, will be playing against each other right now. So they've been, obviously training and in isolation, and now for the last few weeks together. I think this is probably a good thing for South African rugby and not a bad thing. As if we had to play them today, sure, it would be a bad idea. Well, it wouldn't be very good for us. But I think in a month, 4 to 6 weeks from now, we start playing New Zealand and Australia, we'll be in a much better position than they would. So this game, Brent, the last time I went to Loftus, I was actually with you. And that will be the last time I go to Loftus, unless somebody sticks me in a proper VIP box. I'm unlikely to ever go back there. Beer's in a cage at the back. I'm not surprised that the fans aren't allowed. I don't even think they want to go back there anyway. These are friendlies, eh? I am going to have a bet here because it is the first time I've had South African rugby, or I've got the opportunity to have a bet on South African rugby. I'm going to go against the world here. I'm going to tell you that the Sharks at 9-10 are probably the value. I think the Sean Everett guy knows what he's talking about, what he's doing. Jake White is still too new. I don't think everybody likes him yet. I think he's probably picked out his couple of guys in the change room. I just think there's a little bit of value here about the Sharks. I don't think the Bulls were not very good going into the COVID. I know it was 6 months ago. I don't know. I've spoken to a couple of people here in Durban, and they tell me that the Sharks camp is a well-oiled military machine, and I'm going to go with that. I think that I think there's value at 9-10 about the Sharks. if they want to punt the Bulls and make the Sharks into evens and 11-10, I'll probably wait a little bit. But again, this is a half a unit bet for me here. I am going to watch, and I'm definitely going to have a small strike here. Win or lose, I will be involved. I think people are seeing too much into Jake White and luring all of these people. I had a chat with a Stig a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about no crowds in attendance, whether that made a difference or not. And we found that statistically, the home team didn't have as much of an impact on the game being in the home stadium, but with no fans. So the fans definitely make a difference, or should I say the crowd, even though not too many people have been watching South African rugby recently, still a couple of thousand people in the stadium do make a noise. And I just think the bookmakers have priced that in here already. And I just think that the value is with the Sharks. I think if there was a crowd there, you'd probably see a -1 or 2, maybe -3 Bulls, and probably be stretched out to about -5 with some extra money. But honestly, I think the value is with the Sharks here. I won't be surprised if they win, but I'm not putting a lot of money on it.
Right, and just to mention, we carry a betting Stig block now. So he actually puts all these what we call Stig lines up, and very, very interesting. And I can tell you that thing's getting lots of people reading that blog of the betting Stig. So you can go to goodforthegame.co.za. You'll find his blog there up on the home page. So Gav, I'm probably I'm not going to get too involved in this game. I'm interested to see what the total points line is. But I have a bit of a different view. I'm not the biggest Jake White fan, and I'm not convinced he's going to be the long-term answer there. But I actually think the new coach might hit the ground running here. I also like the look of the Bulls pack. I think they might get on top of the Sharks. And just something interesting I'll throw out there, altitude. I think it's something that often gets overplayed when the guys talk about the provincial game and that. But this is a bit of a different situation to normal in the sense that the Sharks are now probably all of them coming up to Joburg or to Pretoria for the first time in quite a long time. I'm not expert on the matter, but I'm sort of thinking to myself, could altitude perhaps play a bigger role here than it might do if it was the middle of the season and the guys were sort of up in Johannesburg every 2 weeks?
Yeah, Brent, they always say, I was going to ask you if you know when the Sharks went up, because that's also an interesting one, because what they try and do, especially the New Zealanders, and they've got it right over the years, they saying that they go up the day before. 48 hours maximum, sort of 36 to 24 hours is when they actually arrive there. So they negate the altitude. I don't know. I mean, I've never been at that level of sport. I only played soccer at a reasonable level when I was younger. I just noticed that the tennis ball flies a little bit faster, that kind of thing. But I've never, I've never been affected by altitude with sport because I've never been at that level. But I don't know. The other thing we all skipping around here, we're missing the big point here is that this is a friendly. This is to try out positions and try out moves and try out stuff. I think I didn't look. I should have, but I didn't. Do you know where the fixtures are next week? Where are they playing next week?
I actually haven't looked yet either. I haven't looked at that, so I'm not too sure, Gav, on that.
Yeah, because I think
but I take your point on the friendly. I think you've got to be careful in these games.
Absolutely. Whatever your maximum is here, you've honestly got to divide by a minimum of 10. If you're a fiver, you've got to go to half a unit here. So you just can't go bigger. You just can't.
But with that being said, I do like the Bulls, and it is your first program back. The question is, do we have a little even bet on this? I mean, you can have even money to Sharks.
All right. And even 500 I'll do with you, Brent, on this game. But honestly, that's the maximum, mate. I'm not interested in 500.
I'm happy to even halve it. I'm even happy to halve it to 250 if you want. It's up to you.
No. I'm happy at 500. That's fine.
You're happy at 500. Let's have a look what Brady says here. We'll be looking at the first half. This has been set the trend when these tournaments resumed recently. Overs in the first half. And it's true, New Zealand in particular. Wow. You get overs in the first half, and then you would get all of the sort of low-scoring second halves. Let's have a look at the next game, though.
What is the points line on this game, Brent? Because that is an interesting point you make. I can tell you, this is an opinion. Obviously, I'm not a big points punter, but I've got to believe that this has got to be a high-scoring game. I mean, this is going to be one of those 43-40 kind of games. I don't know. It just. Friendlies, the guys, the ball gets thrown around and people try all sorts of different stuff. I just can't stress enough that you just can't go wild on these games. You honestly can't. I don't know. It's unlikely to be it's unlikely to be 20 points to 17 or something like that. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, I could well see points in this game. I mean, conditions up in Joburg are going to probably, I haven't looked at the weather forecast, but just based on what we're getting at the moment, should be good. But certainly probably not one to get carried away on. Lions 14-10, draw 28-1, Stormers 6-10. Gavin, I have to ask you if they got the right favourite here.
Brent, sorry, have you correctly written that? Is that 1 next to the 4 there correct for the Lions? I'm just checking.
14-10. You thought they might be 4-10.
Yeah, that probably sounds about right. So for the likes of Rugabugger and the conductor, they got the wrong favourite with this one as well. We'll go back to your altitude here. I'm sorry. 14-10 will also get my interest. I don't even care which Lions team shows up. That's a big price about a team, like you said, had been sitting around there. I didn't rate the Stormers before the break. In fact, I had a bet with Hein on Stormers season against Lions season. Yes, he was up, and I'd like to give him the opportunity, if he wants to have that bet again with me. Stormers against Lions in this next tournament coming up. I'll be happy to honour it there. He's welcome to increase the stake as well if he likes, because unfortunately we had to scratch the last one because we didn't finish the season, although he was well up at the time. I don't know. It's a longer trip for the Stormers to get to Joburg than it is for the Sharks. I like the Sharks. They had such a, they ended that pre-COVID period on an absolute high. They were looking like they were going to get to the semi-finals or the final. They were just a well-oiled machine. And like I said, I've spoken to a few people in the know, and they tell me that's still going on. In fact, they reckon they're in a better position than they are right now. So, I'm expecting the Sharks to win this little tournament. But at 14-10, I'm a Lions punter. Yeah, I can't be taking 6-10 about the Stormers, and I can't be taking -3 or -4, whatever they are. It just seems crazy on a friendly and a long way from home for them. And yeah, it's a nighttime game this as well. Let's not forget that. This is a 7 o'clock starter. First up for the Stormers in the dark at Loftus with no people in there. I don't know. I think Lions will smash them. When I say smash them, 5, 6, 7, I don't know. Friendly smash.
Peter Paul asking if you looked at the teams, and I know you're not a great. You're a pundit who doesn't look too carefully at the teams.
I look at prices and I look at money. And you know what? At -3 or 4 Sharks, I wasn't a Sharks punter, but you've put me down into the position where I'm getting a level game about the Sharks. I'm interested. This line's 14-10. It just feels too high. Yeah, it just feels too high. I'm a numbers person. I follow the money. I don't follow the money. Sorry, I read the money and I respect the money. I also understand mathematically, and also just to go back I'm not taking anything away from the Stig, and I'm sure you'll agree with what I have to say here. His algorithm with regards to pricing up games had a lot to do with a few conversations we had. In fact, we had a couple of hour chats. I'm a maths guy, and I gave him a lot of insight into what to go in there. I don't have the time to put that sort of a calculator together. So I got a lot of respect for Stig's calculator. I don't know what it chucks up in a friendly like this. But let me tell you, I'm a maths ike, and it's all about the numbers for me. I don't care who the captain is. I don't care if his girlfriend likes him or not. I don't care if he didn't sleep properly. That doesn't matter to me. Not interested.
He's a numbers man. Oracle, thanks very much, man. We're going to short and sweet today as far as the local game goes. So thanks for joining us. I'm going to run through very briefly the betting on the Mitre 10 Cup now and share a couple of the guys' bets. But it's been great having you on the show, and look forward to having you on a lot of the shows going forward as we head into the local game.
I'll be in all of them, Brent.
Excellent. Gavin Cohn, Oracle Rugby, or Oraclepedia, should I say. And I know the guys actually mentioning in the chat they're good, big fans of your quizzes, in particular your music quiz. So keep up the good work there.
Music on Saturday night has got quite popular now. It's very good. Anyway, thanks very much, Brent. Shot, guys. Thanks for the show. And I'll jump off and enjoy the rugby on Saturday.
Excellent. Thanks, Gavin. That was Oracle Rugby, Gavin Cohn. Always good to have him on. Well, guys, we're going to run through the Mitre 10 Cup quickly. I'm not going to spend too much time. I haven't done a lot on it myself, but I have got some inputs from a few of the guys who felt they were drinking a bit heavily in the afternoon to come on the show tonight. We've got Wellington Bay of Plenty. Very interesting game. I've got the Sunbet betting up here, -7.5. But I know Sean Nicholas makes Wellington his best bet, -6.5. You can get at Hollywood, or you certainly could earlier. And if I look at some of the messages I've got, Thoughts on Sports likes Wellington -6.5. Son of a Punch, one half of it anyway. Jordan likes the -6.5. Henrik also quite likes the -6.5. So certainly Wellington looks like potentially one of the better bets there. Tasman against Waikato, we got -11.5 Tasman here. And if I have a look at what the boys have said, the general sentiment seems to be leaning towards Waikato on the plus there. So that's at 11.5. Southland against North Harbour. Here we got Southland at home, +11.5 points. I'll have a quick look if this features in any of the guys' best bets. Southland against North Harbour. Don't see too much popping up there. This looks potentially like a game not to get too involved with. Hawke's Bay against Canterbury. Let's just have a look. Sorry, just to work the old mouse. Hawke's Bay against Canterbury. We got +8.5 Hawke's Bay. I did see Henrik likes Hawke's Bay plus, and he also likes a little bit of the Hawke's Bay win. And you can get 47-20 there, the Hawke's Bay win. And just going up, Neil also very much on Hawke's Bay as well. So, and just confirming Son of a Punt, yeah, also likes Hawke's Bay. So far I would say the solid picks are looking like Hawke's Bay on the plus and Wellington on the minus. Auckland against Manawatu, there's been a lot of guys saying unders on points here. Now, I haven't seen lines on this, but I know there were total points lines up on this. And Henrik says, if still available, under 65.5 in the Auckland game. Yeah, I'm not sure. Some of the bookmakers do price up earlier on points. Taranaki against Otago. What have we got here? We got Taranaki -7.5 at 9-10. Just having a look if they don't. I don't think they feature too much in any of the guys' plays there. And the final game is Counties up against Northland, and here we got Counties -7.5. Also not one. I think with these games taking place on Sunday, the guys haven't had too much of a look at it. But let's have a look if any of the guys have popped in with any comments there. I know Gavin and Brady chatting there, but that's the Mitre 10 Cup. Guys, do subscribe to the newsletter. That'll be out tomorrow morning. Next week, we'll make sure we do have more chat on the Mitre 10 Cup. Also considering, and I'm interested in your views on this, yeah, we're going to have a lot of rugby coming up in the next few weeks. We're going to have European rugby in full flight. We're going to have New Zealand rugby. We're going to have international rugby. We're going to have local rugby. Is it worth splitting the show out, perhaps doing a 9 o'clock show on local rugby and then splitting the rugby out? Or are you guys happy to sort of plow ahead for a good hour, hour and a quarter? Because that's probably what it'll come down to with all the rugby on display. Anyways, let me know if you're free to drop me a tweet at Brent Graham, or let me know at the bottom in the comments section what you think of that, or in the Good for the Game forum. And yeah, we'll see what we can do there. But there certainly is plenty of rugby to come. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Thanks to my guests, Dave and Oracle. And thanks to all the guys in the live chat. Certainly great talking to you on this public holiday Thursday. Everyone around South Africa has been Brian. I had a Brian myself with a couple of beers. But yeah, managed to keep myself together for the show. And it's been great being here with you all. Just to finish off with a couple of views there. Pro Tips agrees with Wellington. And Oraclepedia thanking us all for his time. So thanks a lot, guys. Do subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so yet. And yeah, we'll see you next week for the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters.